What if the price of power was transformation? And what if the only person who could help you was the very witch your kingdom swore to destroy? In The Lost Lands shows us what happens when ambition meets ancient magic in a brutal, war-ravaged world. A man named Boyce opens the story by looking straight into the camera and breaking the fourth wall. He warns the audience that what they are about to witness is not a fairy tale with a happy ending. Instead, it's a tale of survival, power, betrayal, and consequences. The film begins in this grim setting, a post-apocalyptic version of Earth known as the Lost Lands. The planet has been ravaged by ancient wars, with the skies once raining down destruction, leaving the land barren and filled with monstrous, twisted creatures that lurk in the shadows. The remnants of humanity now survive in a single fortified city. Within the stronghold, life is tightly controlled by a tyrannical theocracy ruled by a powerful figure known only as the Overlord, whose militant arm is led by a fierce and merciless woman called the Enforcer. Grey Alice, a witch, is introduced as she stands on a platform, sentenced to be executed by hanging. She has been condemned for defying the authority of the church. The Enforcer uses the moment to make an example out of her, halting the nearby slave workers to ensure they see what happens to those who resist. She announces to the crowd that Alice has been declared a devil by the church and must be purged. Without pause, the Enforcer kicks away the platform beneath Alice and she begins to hang. But Alice uses her powers at that critical moment. As she struggles for breath, she locks eyes with a nearby guard. Using her magic, she implants a powerful illusion in his mind, making him believe that he is the one being hanged. Terrified, the guard fires his weapon at the rope, severing it and unintentionally saving Alice's life. However, his defiance is short-lived as the Enforcer swiftly arrives and executes him on the spot. Alice escapes into the wilderness, and the Enforcer immediately orders her guards to pursue. Alice systematically ambushes and eliminates the guards one by one until only the Enforcer remains. She captures her and strings her up in poetic retribution. As the Enforcer dangles, she curses Alice, declaring that she will burn in hell. Alice walks away, and the nearby slaves begin chanting, "The witch that will not hang." Far from the city, Boyce enters the Lost Lands on horseback. A gun hangs from his saddle, and a two-headed snake slithers beside it. As he moves through a dark tunnel, a gang of armed men attempts to ambush him. One of them reaches for his weapon, but is bitten by the snake. Boyce responds instantly, drawing twin pistols and taking out the attackers with clean headshots. He picks up the snake, holsters his guns, and rides away. Alice takes refuge in an ancient, crumbling temple. There she encounters Evelyn Hall, a blind witch who recognizes Alice immediately. Evelyn thanks Alice for always being kind, and Alice replies that she will always remain kind to her. Shortly after, Queen Rena, wife of the Overlord, arrives with Jarais, the leader of the Overwatch. The Queen invokes an ancient pact that compels Alice to grant her a wish. Rena asks for privacy and instructs Jarais to leave them alone. In private, Queen Rena makes a shocking request. She wants Alice to give her the ability to transform into a beast, a wolf. Alice agrees without hesitation, even though she warns the Queen of the risks. Rena brushes off her warnings, and Alice simply responds, "I refuse no one." Alice explains that the transformation must take place under a full moon and that a hunter must be hired for the journey. She begins preparing. Jarais, suspicious and worried, secretly returns and offers Alice a precious timepiece in exchange for sabotaging the Queen's request. Again, Alice accepts, repeating, "I refuse no one." Using her magic, Alice searches through the minds of others to locate the shapeshifter, a monstrous entity who brutally slaughters anyone in its path. Meanwhile, Queen Rena tends to the aging Overlord who has become weak and helpless. He humiliates himself and begs for help. Rena offers no sympathy and calls for servants to clean him. Alice visits a bar and finds the hunter she's looking for, Boyce. He only agrees to talk to her if she can beat him in a game of cards. Alice accepts and wins. She explains that she needs a guide to venture into the Lost Lands and that she is looking for a shapeshifter to claim his power. Boyce warns her of the dangers beyond the walls, where laws and logic no longer apply. He eventually agrees to guide her, accepting her offer of the timepiece as a token. Suddenly, the Enforcer storms into the bar with her armed acolytes. One of them opens fire, but Alice and Boyce dodge. Boyce throws his two-headed snake at their attacker, but the Enforcer kills it. In the chaos, Alice and Boyce escape on horseback, Back at the city, the church patriarch reveals his ambition to overthrow the overlord and the queen. He issues a bounty for Alice and demands her execution. Evelyn, the blind witch, is brought before him and reveals that Queen Rena had visited Alice. The patriarch sees this as a threat to the queen's legitimacy and orders Evelyn's execution after extracting more information. Deep in the wilds, Boyce and Alice continue their journey. When a snake slithers by, Boyce gently picks it up. Alice teases him for being sentimental. That night, Boyce approaches Alice while she's asleep, raising her suspicion. But instead of harming her, he kills a scorpion that was about to attack her. They reach a trading post where Boyce reunites with his old friends Ross and Mara. Alice presses for speed. There's only a few days left before the full moon. Boyce reveals a shortcut through the train tracks that can save time, but is far more dangerous. Meanwhile, the Enforcer departs the city aboard a heavily guarded train, her eyes fixed on the vast, unforgiving terrain beyond the city walls. Her mission is clear: find Alice and bring her back dead or alive. With a cold, calculated demeanor, she begins her journey across the Lost Lands, flanked by armed acolytes and a growing sense of vengeance. Back at the palace, the cunning and manipulative church patriarch pays a surprise visit to Queen Rena. His voice is calm, but his eyes are full of suspicion. He subtly accuses her of harboring knowledge about Alice's whereabouts. Though Queen Rena flatly denies any connection, her cool composure only deepens his doubts. Later that night, in the shadows of the palace halls, the patriarch secretly contacts the Enforcer via magical communication. He commands her to ensure Alice is captured at any cost, even if that means bringing back a confession from the queen herself by force if necessary. Meanwhile, Alice and Boyce reach a place known as the Rift, a treacherous canyon that cuts deep into the landscape. They find the main bridge destroyed, splintered into rubble by some unknown force. With no safe way across, they head to the nearby outpost of Sirius, a man from Boyce's past who might offer a way forward. But what they find is a grim sight: Sirius has been murdered, his lifeless body hanging from the rafters as a clear message. As they step outside the building, their fears are realized. The Enforcer and her squad are waiting for them. A tense standoff follows. The Enforcer, eyes burning with fury, demands Alice's surrender. She reveals Mara, bruised and tied, as a hostage. Boyce refuses to yield. Without hesitation, the Enforcer shoots Mara, killing her in front of them. The battlefield erupts in chaos. Alice and Boyce spring into action, fighting with deadly precision. They take down multiple enemies and make a run for a cable car stationed nearby. With no time to lose, they leap inside and cut the restraints, sending it rolling across the canyon. But the danger isn't over. Soldiers leap onto the moving car, and a violent brawl breaks out. Blades flash and bodies fall. Alice climbs to the top of the car, where she battles several attackers under the moonlit sky. One by one, she knocks them off, but then the Enforcer gives a final, devastating order: cut the cable. With a loud snap, the line breaks. The cable car crashes violently into the cliffside. Somehow, Alice and Boyce survive the impact, though bruised and bloodied. They find shelter in the ruins. Boyce, wounded from the fight, thanks Alice for saving him. She carefully patches up his injuries. As he rests, he opens up for the first time, admitting that the wild chaos of the Lost Lands feels more like home to him than the cold, suffocating order of the city ever did. 2 days before the full moon, Queen Rena discovers she is pregnant. With grim resolve, she visits the deathbed of the Overlord. Then, with the weight of decision heavy on her shoulders, she ends his life by smothering him. She leaves the room as the bell's toll is passing, signaling the power shift now underway. Alice and Boyce continue towards Skull River, but the terrain leads them to Shadows Bay, a place whispered about even in the darkest tales. Knowing that monsters inhabit the area, they form a defensive ring of fire using fuel. The flames ward off the first wave of tree-like beasts that emerge from the mist, but as the fire dims, more creatures draw near. Alice steps forward and uses her illusion magic to project an image of them consumed in flame. The leader of the creatures is fooled, and they retreat into the night. After the danger passes, Alice reveals the truth: the creature was once a man who sought her power. As always, she refused no one. The gift she gave him transformed him and his followers into monsters. One day before the full moon, a tracker finally locates them. The Enforcer, still aboard the train, receives the news and orders the conductor to increase speed. Meanwhile, tensions rise in the city. With the Overlord dead, the Patriarch intensifies his grip, commanding that Alice be captured immediately and publicly denounced. At the firefields, Alice tells Boyce she must face the shapeshifter alone. Boyce refuses to let her go without him. She tries to hand back the timepiece he gave her, hoping he'll turn back. But he declines, determined to see the mission through. Back at the palace, Queen Rena, now fully aware of the Patriarch's ambition, instructs Jerice to eliminate him. Jerice, loyal and unflinching, accepts. Alice and Boyce ride through a mountain tunnel. The roar of the Enforcer's train echoes behind them. Alice makes a bold choice. She steps onto the tracks as the train barrels toward her. At the last moment, she leaps. Boyce catches her in midair. Behind them, the train hurtles forward, unaware that the bridge ahead is broken. It crashes into the ravine below, killing everyone on board, including the Enforcer. Back in the city, the Patriarch prepares for one last grasp at power, but Jerice confronts him in the throne room, flanked by loyal guards. The Patriarch's arrogance is his downfall. Jerice stabs him through the chest, and the guards finish him off, ending his tyranny for good. Alice and Boyce finally arrive at Skull River. The air is thick with tension. Boyce warns her the creature they seek is near. Alice begins to prepare, outfitting herself with weapons forged from silver. As the moon rises, Boyce begins to transform. It is revealed he is the wolf. The battle that follows is fierce. Alice fights with everything she has, blending swordsmanship and magic. At one point, she transforms into a massive eagle and strikes from above. With one final move, she drives a silver blade into Boyce's chest. As the moon fades, Boyce reverts to human form. Alice, solemn and calm, chains him and reveals that she has poisoned his blood with silver. He asks for a final wish that they live and fight together, united. But as the moon rises once more, he begins to shift again. Alice delivers the final blow. She buries his remains and places the timepiece at his grave. Alice returns to the city where the freed slaves chant, "The witch that will not hang." She hands the wolf skin to Jirai, instructing that Queen Rena must wear it before sunrise to complete the transformation. Jerice demands the return of his timepiece. Alice refuses, stating he already got what he wanted Queen Rena. When Rena learns Boyce was the shapeshifter and that Jerice knew all along, she is devastated. In a final act of vengeance, she stabs Jerice. As rebellion erupts in the streets, the queen flees the palace. At sunrise, something extraordinary happens. Boyce is resurrected. He finds Alice and confronts her. They stand face to face, blades drawn. But instead of violence, they choose unity. In the end, Alice and Boyce, the witch and the hunter, walk side by side once more. Together, they return to the wild, untamed world of the Lost Lands, ready to survive whatever comes next.